Now, if I had to choose my 4 favorite things in life, I would say my girlfriend, my best friends, Borderlands, and theory crafting.
My name is Eli, and this is what I like to call
Rafa Ricochet 46. Now, this build is based on the idea of proccing the most possible ricochets, hitting the most possible enemy, and surviving on sheer luck and lifesteal through indirect projectiles. And I know what you're thinking, I spelled ricochet wrong. And why 46? 46 is the amount of points that you're going to be putting into this build. The rest of the points you can choose on your own afterwards. And ricochet is spelled this way based on something from my childhood that I'm bringing to yours.
I call it Ricochet's pulverizing pinball!
In case you weren't wanting to watch the whole video, I'm going to have a few images that I'm going to flash on the screen for a few moments, as well as a short clip that goes through the click-by-click process. Feel free to screenshot, of course, and on the website maxroll.gg, you can go ahead and load up your own skill tree. I'm using that at the moment to demonstrate where I'm going to go within this video. I'm going to switch over to Rafa from Vex. I'm going to choose the Peacebreaker action skill. I'm going to start off by putting 5 points into Deft Hands, then switching over to our augment Instinto. I'm going to put 5 points into Juerga and 5 points into Resiliencia. I'm going to come down to this bottom left side. I'm going to put 5 points into Asymetric Warfare, 4 points into Ardid, and then I'm going to put 1 point into Errant Spark. Choosing our capstone double lot, putting 1 into Lateral Plinking, and then coming to this middle section. 5 points are going into Vitriol, 1 point is going into Lightning, 5 points are going into Pain Reaction, 1 into Alacran, and then 3 into Inspirado. After that, you're coming to the very right, and then you are putting 5 points into Everdrive. And that is how we're going to spend our 46 points. This build will be going down the red skill tree, which primarily focuses on your action skill, Peacebreaker Cannons. Equip Rafa's Peacebreaker Cannons, which automatically fired enemies in Rafa's crosshairs, dealing kinetic damage. If that enemy dies or you press a button, the Peacebreaker Cannons find a new target. Holding a button ends Peacebreaker Cannons and refunds a portion of the remaining action skill duration as action skill cooldown. The turret duration is 18 seconds and the cooldown is 32 seconds. Effectively, these are auto-firing turrets that sit on your back and then shoot at enemies that you're shooting at anyways, so free damage. To maximize the damage and survivability of this build, you're going to want a kite, and by kite, I basically mean
you're gonna float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Ah!
Every Vault Hunter gets a trait, and Rafa's Vault Hunter trait is Overdrive. Whenever Rafa activates an action skill, he enters Overdrive. While an action skill is active, Overdrive's duration does not decrease. While Overdrive is active, gain increased movement speed and deal increased damage with all sources. That increase to damage is 10% and that increase to movement speed is 25%. The duration of Overdrive is 12 seconds plus the time that you are in your action skill. To make the most of this, you're going to want to increase your action skill duration and reduce the cooldown of that action skill. Your first 5 points are going to go into Deft Hands. Deft Hands will increase your fire rate by 4% per point invested, starting at 4% obviously, and capping at 20%. This will allow for more frequent procs of things coming in the future. Based on what's shown on Maxroll, which is a site that Moxie is helping with, it appears as if we'll be able to choose between one of the 5 augments and one of the 3 capstones for any given Vault Hunter when we get to that point in their skill tree. I'm not sure if there will be additional things that you will have to get done first. Either way, this is the augment that I would suggest for this build. For Instinto, Rafa's Peacebreaker Cannons gain increased critical hit chance. Pressing a button while Peacebreaker Cannons are active causes them to double their critical hit chance and gain increased critical hit damage, while also causing his action skill duration to drain faster. Killing an enemy causes Rafa to regain action skill duration, while also causing his action skill duration to drain faster. Critical hit chance is plus 25%, duration return is plus 10% on kill, critical hit damage is plus 15%, and the duration is 8 seconds. That duration rate is plus 3% after each kill, and the maximum amount of stacks you can have is 10. Basically for this, you get a 25% increased chance to crit with your Peacebreaker, and your kills will improve your action skill duration. After you pick up your augment, your next 5 points are going to go into, how do you say this?
Juerga.
Whenever Rafa crits, your action skill duration restores, with a cooldown of 4 seconds. This is going to start with a 3% action skill duration restoration and end off you restoring 15% action skill duration each time you crit. For this, you're going to want to improve your action skill duration and your crit ratio, because with your action skill duration maxed, more will be restored, and with your crit ratio higher, this will proc more often. Your next 5 points are going to go into
Resiliencia.
where Rafa will gain increased damage reduction while in Overdrive. This is going to start off with 8% damage reduction and go into 40% damage reduction whenever it's capped. For this, you'll want to increase your Overdrive duration to allow for this to last longer. And based on how Overdrive works, you'll also want to increase your action skill duration and reduce the downtime between your action skill. And with what Moxie said in his video, armor that greatly increases your damage reduction would pair very nicely with this.
So this number right here is your total armor value. This number is your segments. So each armor is going to have a armor value, and then that's going to be split into a certain amount of segments. This is 325 armor, and it's going to be in 2 segments, so each segment will be 1/2 of 325. And while you have armor, this number is flat damage reduction. While you have your armor up, any damage that is incoming is going to get reduced by a certain percentage. So while 325, for example, might not seem like a lot, the damage that's going to be incoming is going to get reduced by 29%, so it'll last you a bit longer.
Your next 5 are finally going down one of the tree paths. This skill is Asymmetric Warfare. For every point that you put in this, you'll gain 9% indirect projectile damage. The way that this is worded leads me to believe that this may include ricochet damage. More than anything, I'm sure that you'll want to increase your Peacebreaker Cannon fire rate, as well as what Rest Assured said in his video.
But the thing I think they're trying to go for here is TDR weapons. Since Rafa basically has all the TDR tech on him, now they are really giving you a skill to play into TDR, because it does work on thrown weapons or even projectiles. So if there's any TDR chucking build in the game, which I imagine there probably will be, this is definitely going to be a skill you want to take, or if you just want to buff your action skill damage as well.
The next 4 points will go into Ardid. This passive allows for Rafa's indirect projectiles to gain 10% lifesteal. With 4 points in, this should give 40% lifesteal. With this, you're going to want to maximize the amount of indirect projectiles not only going towards your enemies, but hitting, and the amount of damage there are. Very next point will go into Errant Spark, which I can't say without hearing. For this skill, all indirect projectiles deal bonus fire damage. The reason that we're choosing this skill is for the chance to proc status effects, which will be evident in later parts of this build. If you did not want to put a point in this, you could circumvent that by choosing the other augment option that I chose not to go with. And I chose not to go with that augment option based on what was said in this Rest Assured video.
So I'm pretty sure in our playtest, they actually talked about how they're going to nerf this, because that consume no ammo part was absolutely insane. You could literally just press this and your gun could have infinite ammo. I think that is going to be toned back.
For our capstone, I'm suggesting double aught Autoshot.
Autobots, roll out!
For this capstone, Rafa's Peacebreaker Cannons are replaced with shotguns that deal increased damage and have increased pellet count. Rafa's turrets gain a chance to ricochet, and critical hits always ricochet. For this, you're obviously going to want to maximize your critical chance, things like increasing that base chance if you can, or increasing your fire rate at all will help with this. After your capstone, you'll want to pick up Lateral Plinking, which will give your indirect projectiles a 25% chance to ricochet. Now we're finally headed down that status effect tree that I mentioned earlier, something that will boost the chance of ricochet in the end. The first skill that we're going to pick up there is Vitriol, and we're going to put 5 points into it. The first shot fired from Rafa's fully loaded magazine deals bonus corrosive damage. This skill I feel is a huge point to talk about the manufacturers, and no one explains the license part system better than Dantix does here.
Take a look at your weapons and the new license part system. It's similar to what we had before. Weapons will drop with particular randomized modifiers. However, now some modifiers are tied to specific manufacturers. For example, take a look at the legendary that dropped after I killed the Vault monster, the Husky Friend. It has a TDR and Jacobs licensed part attached. The TDR part makes it so you can throw the weapon away instead of reloading for an effect, and the Jacobs part giving the signature ricochet effect when you get a crit. I'll try to make it more clear. Each manufacturer only licenses out one part. For Jacobs, it's the barrel that grants the crit ricochet.
The data list being something that has quick reloads would really benefit this skill specifically, and this build as well. The TDR, as mentioned previously by Rustish, TDRs have multiple effects that occur whenever you reload, such as being thrown like a grenade whenever it runs out of ammo, or tossing it to the ground to act as a walking turret. The Jacobs for obvious reasons, as the bullets ricochet, and Melowan weapons as they have a higher chance for status effects to proc. Perhaps even the new Order weapons, if I'm reading this correctly. It says the Order's weapons focus on charged shots that load extra ammo into a single round before firing for immense damage, so if that counts as the first bullet fired from the magazine, even though it's multiple bullets put into one, then that could be a great addition to this skill as well. After that, we're just going to put 1 point in the lightning. While Rafa aims, he gets bonus shock damage. For this, you're just going to want to maintain aiming your weapon when you can, though I'm sure this is going to conflict reloading. If you crit, you'll deal bonus shock damage as well. Your next 5 points are going to go into pain reaction. As mentioned previously, this is when those status effects have the chance to ricochet, which makes proccing status effects a huge part of this build. What starts at 3% ricochet chance per status, which becomes 15% ricochet chance per status effects. Ugh, tongue twister. For this, you'll just want to increase the number of status effects you can apply.
El Alacran.
Embarrassingly enough, I spelled incorrectly the first time I was making this image. We're just gonna slide that under the rug and put 1 point into this. Enemies damaged by Rafa's Peacebreaker Cannons have an increased status effect chance, and the duration for that is 8 seconds. It is a 35% increased status effect chance. I'm hoping that the ricocheted bullets for your Peacebreaker Cannons count for this, because that would mean that basically everything was getting statused all the time. As long as an enemy was damaged within the last 8 seconds by your Peacebreaker Cannon, it should have that boosted chance for you to deal a status effect to it.
Inspirado.
At this point, it's just funnier to have the voice do it than me. We're going to put 3 points into this passive. It has a lot of math involved.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
So I'm going to read the description verbatim. Whenever Rafa inflicts a status effect on an enemy, gain increased action skill cooldown rate and improved action skill duration rate. This effect stacks. Duration is plus 2%, cooldown is plus 3%, the duration is 8 seconds, and it stacks up to 10 times. Basically, what you're going to want to do is apply status effects to increase your action skill duration and decrease the cooldown of your action skill. Since there's 3 points in this, the duration could be plus 6% and the cooldown could be plus 9%. Now, if you're constantly applying status effects to enemies, and by that I effectively mean 10 status effects every 8 seconds, to keep this continuously going, you would have a plus 60% improved action skill duration and plus 90% action skill cooldown rate. Because this says Rafa, I'm assuming that this includes your weapons and your indirect projectiles, as well as your Peacebreaker Cannon. Which, in the event that that is true, you would want to increase the number of statuses you could potentially apply to enemies, especially in large crowds, as this would be killer. You would want to increase your Ricochet chance and your fire rate. Now, the last skill that you would be putting points into is Everdrive. You'd be going down that final tree and putting 5 points into Everdrive. I know that 46 points isn't the maximum total of points that you will have on any given character. However, we don't have a definitive. We know from a post a moment ago that the level cap at launch will be 50. The level cap will likely increase later down the line, so the rest of the points are yours to spend how you choose. For Everdrive, you gain increased duration on your Overdrive. Starts out at plus 11%, ends up being plus 55%. To boost this, you would just want to reduce your action skill cooldown. Because with Overdrive ending shortly after your action, if you can reduce the amount of time between your action skills, you can be in Overdrive more frequently. I wanted to demonstrate a full breakdown of what these passives offer you at every stage. So without Overdrive active or your Peacebreaker Cannons, plus 20% fire rate, plus 8% bonus fire damage from indirect projectiles, or 16 if they already deal fire damage, plus 55% corrosive damage from the first bullet in a magazine, plus 2% shock damage per hit while aiming, and 1% if you're critting while aiming. Both of those two combine to stack up to 20 times. You get plus 9% action skill cooldown rate per status effect applied to an enemy within the last 8 seconds. That stacks up to 10 times. You get plus 15% ricochet chance per status effect, plus 45% indirect projectile damage, plus 40% lifesteal from indirect projectile, and a plus 25% chance your indirect projectiles will ricochet. While your Overdrive is active, you'll have plus 10% damage on all of your damage, you'll have plus 25% movement speed, and plus 40% damage reduction. With your Peacebreaker Cannons active, you'll have that plus 20% Peacebreaker fire rate, you'll have the plus 25% Peacebreaker crit chance, you'll have plus 10% action skill duration return per kill, you'll have plus 15% crit damage. Upon activation, you'll have plus 3% action skill duration return per kill for 8 seconds to a maximum of 10 stacks. You'll have plus 15% action skill duration restore per crit with a 4-second cooldown. You'll have a 10% ricochet chance with your Peacebreaker shotgun. All of your Peacebreaker cannon crits will ricochet. You'll have a plus 35% chance to apply status effects to an enemy damaged by Peacebreaker within the last 8 seconds. and you'll have a plus 6% improved action skill duration rate upon inflicting an enemy with a status condition. And the duration for that again is 8 to a maximum of 10 stacks. Now I know that was a lot of math and ifs and ands and buts, and it honestly gave me a headache going through this. But the nice thing about this build is that you can just turn off your brain as soon as you get in game. Your whole objective is just to kite around, which is just moving in different directions, making sure to aim at enemies and shoot. A lot of your bullets will proc status effects and ricochet off of enemies, which just means that you need to be aiming at something that's on the opposing team, and you should be good to go from there. Shield Barriest would be my recommendation for skill points after you finish this build, based on what Moxie said in this clip.
Now, where things get really crazy with armor is it's actually technically still considered shield for like skill points. So, for example, this is Rafa's Shield Barriest. Overdrive skill, Rafa gains increased shield recharge rate and improved shield regen delay while Overdrive is active. This still applies to armor.
And on the subject of gear, I would be remiss if I missed out on mentioning enhancement mods and my recommendation for those as well, which you can find in this clip by Loot Unlocked.
So if you haven't heard of enhancement modifications, this is going to be the gear slot taking over for artifacts from previous Borderlands games. So we're not getting artifacts, we're getting enhancement mods now. And the kind of special effect of this slot is that these items are going to give you a massive buff or new effect to weapons with a specific manufacturer's license part on it. And that description is very specific because these new effects or buffs you're getting don't require you have a weapon of that manufacturer, it just needs a manufacturer part on that weapon. So one of the first ones and one of the most interesting ones we saw was an epic or purple enhancement mod that was called Critical Elemental Leaper, and Leaper is a special effect. So weapons with Jacob's license parts gain a plus 40% chance to ricochet non-critical bullets. So that's just a completely new effect added to any weapon with a Jacob's part on it.
Thanks to Mental Mars, we have a more complete picture of what enhancements might look like, and these are the enhancements and stat bonuses that I think will do best in this build. Clips from these 4 videos were utilized to help make this video, and I just wanted to take a second to thank the creators of these clips. I wanted to give a special thanks to all the YouTube content creators on this list. This video wouldn't be what it is without them. And also a thanks to all of the websites here. Lastly, I just wanted to thank you for watching and wish you all the best of luck in your journey on Kairos.